Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, coming at you today with some pre-processing steps that we have to do in order to kind of generate value going forward, right? So right now, we're local. It's awesome. We've got Git init. We've got Git commit. We're adding things to staging. We're committing them to unmodified. We're rocking it. However, we're not really communicating this work with anyone else. We're not collaborating. We're not out there in the world building, getting stuff done. So how do we do that? Well, we marry Git to another tool called GitHub, and or similar platforms. There's lots of platforms that you can use. Whichever one's your favorite, whichever one your company uses, that one's going to serve you very well. They work all similarly. There are some kind of, when you get really deep in the weeds, there's some differences, but in all intents and purposes, they're fairly the same. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our kind of time today to marry these services. So Git and then GitHub. And the way we're going to do that is through this process called SSH keys. So, if you're here just for GitHub stuff, you might be like, well, why is this guy talking about SSH, right? In order to really fully engage with Git, on GitHub, we do have to have an SSH key or similar kinds of authorization tokens, depending on which tools or command line tools you use to engage with GitHub. We're going to be sticking in the terminal for quite a while. So it figures just get this out of the way. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a connection between our computer and GitHub. Now, it's not actually a connection all the time, but we are going to add what's called an SSH key pair to our local machine, and then we're going to share the public key with github.com. And the reason we do that is because we want to have secure access between our machine and github.com from where we're doing all of our awesome work. We're adding things, we're changing things, we're doing pull requests, we're out in the ecosystem contributing to open source projects. We want to do this because it's easy and it's the way GitHub likes, it's access tokens or SSH keys. So we're going to get this done, and it's going to make everything going forward much easier for us because we don't have to worry about authentication, as much anymore. Now, first things first, you might ask, well, what's SSH? SSH is a secure shell protocol. Basically, you can think of this as like a sweet tunnel that exists between our computer and GitHub. And it's guarded by this key, right? So that's what we're going to create today, and we're going to add to GitHub so that we're good to go. Now, how might we do this? Well, lucky for us, wouldn't you know it, GitHub's got documentation on this. I'll provide this as a link in the description for the video. But yes, there's a process that GitHub has on lock. And so we're just going to walk through that process today, get everything set up, get everything working. So the crux of what we're going to do is we're going to create a key pair. That key pair is going to be a public key and a private key. Now, the public key is a very particular string of, letters and numbers in uppercase and lowercase, classic stuff. And the way that this works is that it doesn't matter if you have the public key. The public key is only going to work, so basically we can check these things against each other. And the public key is only going to work if you have the private key. And the private key is computationally difficult to compute. So what that means is that it can't be done in a reasonable amount of time with a finite amount of compute resources. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to add our key now. So we're going to generate our key using the SSH keygen command on our computer in our terminal. And we're going to add this flag -T25519. It's basically saying we're going to use this particular algorithm. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just know that this is the one that GitHub recommends, and it is a pretty strong algorithm, and that's pretty awesome. So we're going to use that. And then we're going to add a comment just for our bookkeeping, and just use your email or whatever you want. Doesn't really matter here. We're just using this as a way to identify to us what key this is. So we can go ahead and press enter, and then we're going to save it. Now, automatically it's going to save it as ID underscore and then the algorithm, but we want to change that a little bit because, well, we just want to. So we're going to change that to Chris underscore GitHub underscore key. Make sure to point it at your SSH directory, wherever that happens to be, depending on if you're using Windows, Linux, or Mac. And we'll press enter. Then we have to add our password. I would recommend putting a password here. It is possible to automate the password entry per session. It's just an extra layer of security that you're not going to be sad to have. It's not often that you're having to enter this password a lot of times in a row, though it can happen. So I would recommend, setting it up once per session. But yeah, for now, we're going to look at the output here and see that it saved two things. So our identification, our private key is also called an identity key, has been saved in this location under this name. And then our public key has been saved in this location under this name, which is just the, our identity key with this .pub suffix, indicating that's our public key. Now you'll see as well that we have this key fingerprint, and we have this beautiful art that they've made us. And isn't that lovely? So I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen here so you guys can still see it. And we're just going to take a look at, what does that actually, what does that public key look like, right? So we can look at this and we see oh, nice. Just a bunch of stuff. And there it is. There's our key. So this is what GitHub is going to know, right? And then we're going to feed it our private key, and GitHub is going to be like, yes. The private key could only be this if this was your public key. So we're just going to quit out here. Don't need to write anything. Now, we do want to keep following along in this side thing here. So in the GitHub walkthrough, because we do want to do some of this stuff. It's important that we have SSH going, and that we're adding this identity to it. So we're going to use this command eval, and we're going to use the bash SSH agent s, and you can see it's going. Basically, this command tells us it's going. We do want to make sure that it's going, so that when we run this next very important command, which is this .ssh/. Now, remember, the default might be here, but we've changed it. So we have to do Chris underscore GitHub underscore key. And then it's going to prompt us, of course, for our passphrase that we've set. And boom, now we've added this identity. That's pretty hype. So I'm pretty hype. The rest of this stuff is if you have a hardware key, so like a YubiKey or something like that. You don't have to worry about that too much. But yes, for now, we have set up the SSH key pair, the public key, and the identity key on our local system, and we're ready to connect this to GitHub. So we go to the next walkthrough, which is adding a new SSH key to your GitHub account. So how do we do this? Well, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. All we have to do is cat. So we can do the cat command here, and then we're going to do .ssh. And again, we've changed the name, so we're going to have to make sure that we use the name. It's also important to note that we want to cat our public key, not a private key. GitHub doesn't care about that past you delivering it to them when they ask for it. We really want them to have our public key so that we can prove we are who we are with our identity key or our private key. So we want to cat the public key. And you'll see that this is exactly what we were looking at before. I'm going to capture that into my clipboard using the command Control-Shift-C since I'm in my terminal. So Control-C has another meaning in the terminal. So it's in my GitHub, or it's in my clipboard. Nice. We're very happy about this. There it is, in the clipboard. Now the upper right corner of any page, we click our profile, we go to settings, okay, and then we go to access, and then we add a new SSH key, and then we add SSH key. All right, cool. I'm down for this. So let's do it. Let's go to any web page. So we've got this one here. I'm just on my repositories. It says we're going to go to settings. Okay, cool. And then we're going to go to SSH GPG keys. We're going to go to new SSH key. And we're going to add a cool title. We're just going to call this GitHub, demo. And we're going to plop that bad boy right into this text box, and hit add SSH key. And there you go. So we've done that. Let's go back to this. And yes, okay. We add. Cool. And that's it. So let's test it now, right? We've got it. I'm feeling happy. We've added, we generated our SSH key pair. We added it to the local SSH agent. We've also added the public key to our GitHub. And so now it should just work, right? So let's give it a shot. SSH-t git at github.com. Hey, Chris Alexiak, you've successfully authenticated, but GitHub does not provide shell access. Cool. That's it. I mean, really, that's it, That's it. You might notice that I didn't see this particular part, right? So I didn't see the authenticity of host GitHub can't be established. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? I've already done this process. So I already believe in the authenticity of GitHub. Now, what you would do if you hadn't already gone through this process is you'd make sure that this string, this big old chunk here that starts with SHA, which is another algorithm, by the way, 256, matches something in here, right? So you want to make sure that what you see in the output, RSA key fingerprint, or whatever particular algorithm you're using, fingerprint matches what GitHub's official fingerprints are. So the reason we want to do that is because we want to verify that we're talking to who we think we're talking to, right? So we want to know we're talking to GitHub. And so that's why we want to make sure those fingerprints match. And then we can use the command yes after you sure you want to continue. And then we get this lovely thing that says we're connected. So why did we want to do that, right? Well, now we can play with our repositories as much as we'd like. We can start pushing stuff to GitHub. We can start doing all the fun stuff that's going to enable us to be productivity monsters, right? So, yes. So I know this one wasn't super Git focused. We didn't really we didn't do anything with Git, but it's kind of like we need to do this. We should get this out of the way. And now that we can carry on with the rest of our deep dive into Git. But for right now, this is just kind of an important step to get out of the way. So gotta do this stuff too in order to make sure that we can become a productivity monster. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you made it to the end, appreciate you very much. And we'll do another one of these tomorrow. And we'll just keep doing them until we've exhausted all there is to know about Git and GitHub. So that's going to take a while. So we'll talk to you later. All right, bye.